Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Roadmap to Financial Independence podcast, where like-minded people gather in their journey to exit the rat race and join the FIRE community. If joining the financially independent, retire early, or FIRE community seems like only a dream to you, this podcast will help you develop your roadmap to financial independence. I am Scott, and I'm joined by my wife and co-host, Michelle.
We are honored that you are joining us and excited to show you there is a different road you can take to a life of financial independence. In today's show, we will talk about apparent wealth versus actual wealth.
What is the difference between apparent wealth and actual wealth? We here at the Roadmap to Financial Independence podcast define apparent wealth as someone acting like they are financially independent but are drowning in debt with little chance of ever reaching financial independence. Actual wealth is defined as someone who has already achieved financial independence or is on the road to financial independence and lives the life they choose and not the life others expect from them. Too often, people with apparent wealth try to impress others by the clothes they wear, the house they live in, or the cars they drive. When you pull up next to them at a stoplight, you may notice their nice car, but you pay little attention to who's actually driving it. As they pull away, you think to yourself, I am sure glad that I do not have those car payments, and you drive away content with the direction your life is heading. Too often, people with apparent wealth let fear dictate their spending. They are afraid of what their peers may think if they drive an older car. They are fearful of what people may think if they don't have the latest designer fashions. They are afraid of how others will perceive them if they live in a modest home, which they can afford and realistically pay for in 15 years. They often spend money on things they cannot afford to keep up with their friends. They carry balances on their credit cards since using plastic does not feel like they are really spending money.
People with apparent wealth often lease their cars. Too often, they are essentially renting a temporary lifestyle, which in most cases they can't afford. We will discuss car ownership in an upcoming podcast, but one thing we'd like you to start thinking about. If you can't pay cash for it, you can't afford it.
And one thing I want to make clear to our listeners, Michelle, is that we're not advocating that you can never have a nice car, you can never have nice things. What we're advocating is just waiting a little bit for those things. Get yourself financially independent, and then once you're there, you can pay cash and afford just about anything you like. I know starting out, Michelle, you and I drove some, let's say, interesting vehicles as we were working our way to financial independence.
Like the one that we had to tie the hood down on because
Yeah,
it was worn out from being opened and closed so many
yeah,
times.
what was that thing? I think it was like a 1976 Chevy Impala.
I think it was an Impala.
Yeah, I got it from my grandfather. It was a 76. I think we were driving that thing in the late 80s. And it was in rough shape. We live in Minnesota. You know, the rust and the salt they put down on the roads, caused it to rust out. But neither one of us, Michelle, I think, really cared because every month we continue to see I guess at that time we were saving for our house. So we saw our house purchase dollars and the bank continue to climb, knowing that we had a long-term goal. So again, don't think you can never buy anything. Just remember what we advise. Just wait, get yourself financially independent, and then you can live the life you truly want.
People with apparent wealth often live paycheck to paycheck. They have fallen into the trap where they believe they cannot save money or spend less because their lifestyle has become a habit, or they do not know there is a better way. People with apparent wealth also fill their homes with things that they do not need and surround themselves with stuff often financed by credit card debt. As their income increases, so does the size of their home and the cost of their cars. When you drive up by their homes, you see the nice home, nice cars, boats, motorcycles, and other items, which makes them look like they are doing very well, but too often they are drowning in debt. They start paying only the minimum due on their credit cards every month, which costs them thousands of dollars in interest.
You know, Michelle, there's a term called House poor. And so many people, they buy such a large house that such a large percentage of their income goes to their mortgage payment that they don't have any money to actually furnish the house.
Yeah, I knew somebody that had bought this really big house that they really wanted, and then they had to pay so much on their mortgage payments they couldn't even put any furniture in it. It was just a big empty house. You go there and there was no furniture. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah, and that's just no way to live your life because such a large portion of your money is going into your house. I mean, we here at the Financial Independence Podcast recommend that your house doesn't cost you more than 25% of your total income and that you have a mortgage payment that you can pay off in 15 years. Does that sound crazy? To some people it does, but we paid our house off, a brand new house, in 3 years, 3 months. So I can tell you it can be done. And during that time, we had ordinary incomes. We had just graduated from college. It can be done. One thing that the people with apparent wealth do, is with every dollar they spend in interest, they have less to live the life they want and are essentially making others rich off of their labor. They are living beyond their means and truly missing out on the opportunity to build wealth. They do not understand the power of compounding interest and how investing can truly make them rich. So, how does this compare to actual wealth? Most everyday millionaires, or people who have achieved millionaire status on their own, often live in modest homes, drive older cars, and do not stand out. They quietly build their net worth and often retire early to live the life they want. Instead of paying interest on loans to buy things, they invest and earn interest, which compounds over many years, making them rich. Did you know that 77% of the people with at least $3 million in investable assets come from the middle class, with 19% growing up poor? Those people did not come from wealth, but rather from not following the road that leads to debt and keeping up with the Joneses. They built their wealth over a long period of time by buying and holding investments rather than buying things. They used credit strategically and made decisions to live the life they chose. They understand that building wealth is not about how much money you make, but rather is determined by your savings rate. Without a high savings rate, no matter how much money you make, if you don't save and invest, you will never reach financial independence.
People with actual wealth do not bump up their lifestyle with income increases. They even tend to wear the same clothes, drive the same cars, and live in the same home from when they were earning way less. They are content with their belongings. By avoiding lifestyle creep, they avoid wasteful spending and are able to put a large amount of their income into building assets and investments. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, is a perfect example of this. Even though he could easily afford to buy expensive, larger homes, Mr. Buffett still lives in the same house that he purchased in 1958 for only $31,000 and $31,500. To many of you, that may come as quite a surprise, since most people believe the rich live in extravagant houses with many vacation properties. Mr. Buffett is content with his home and talks about it being one of the biggest investments. He could afford it when he purchased it, and over the years he has built happy memories, which is worth far more than a large home with no memories. Mr. Buffett is a perfect example of choosing a different path can truly change your life. As his wealth increased, he did not let lifestyle creep take over and was able to invest his money to create massive wealth for him and his family.
Don't think you can become a millionaire? Think again. Did you know that if you contribute just $400 per month into your 401k from age 30 to 65, you will have over $1 million when you retire at an 8.5% average return on investment? If you increase that amount to $600 per month over the same period, you will have $1.5 million. Finally, If you increase that amount to $1,000 per month, you will have $2.6 million when you retire. Using the 4% withdrawal rate, which we'll go into greater details in an upcoming podcast, you would have over $100,000 per year in income without ever having to touch your principal or worry about running out of money. Just think how that could change your life, the lives of your children, and your grandchildren. Wealthy people don't think of items they purchase in dollars, but rather in time and the opportunity cost of those purchases. They think, how much time will I have to exchange for money in the form of employment to purchase this item? It is important that you stop thinking about items you buy in dollars and start thinking about it in the number of hours you will need to work to purchase that item. Is that new car really worth it? Let's say, for example, you have always wanted a new car. A quick Google search showed a new car cost around $25,000. Let's say that after taxes and fees, the actual out-the-door cost is $28,000. Let's assume you make $20 per hour. After taxes, you will clear approximately $15 per hour. If you take the purchase price of $28,000 and divide it by $15 per hour, you will have to work 1,867 hours to pay for that new car. Is all those hours away from your family at work truly worth it? Or could you find something else that will truly bring you joy to your life in those 1,867 hours? Rich people also think about what else they could do with that money or what the opportunity cost of that purchase is. If we use the above example, and instead of buying a new car, you took that money and invested it at 8.5% for 30 years, that money would grow to $355,389. Just think what you could do with that money. You have now come to a fork in the road. The decision you make right now will determine if you go down the road to actual wealth, to live the life you want, or stay on the bumpy and unknown road with many detours that often leads to financial ruin or missed opportunities. We have chosen to travel the road to financial independence, and one thing I can tell you, it is truly worth it.
In the next 8 podcasts, we will start to lay out the 8-mile markers we used to achieve financial independence. They work for us, and they can work for you. All you need to do is be willing to change your life. Your financial independence is only 8-mile markers down the road. Subscribe to the Roadmap to Financial Independence podcast and share with others a new road to financial independence. Together we can map out a better road for the future of our families. Remember, knowledge maps the road to financial independence. Let's spread the word about financial independence so every American can live the life they want and not the life others expect. Remember, life is short, and retirement is a financial number and not an age. Come and join us on a new road to financial independence.